there's some bad news out of Chile with Galt's Gulch, as it has been called. Of course, many people, as we've discussed here on Free Talk Live, have moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, or in Chris Cantwell's portion, not as part of the Free State Project. Just people moving because they love liberty.
Well, he moved because of the Free State Project.
Initially, but not the last time.
I moved for freedom, and the Free State Project happened to be some people who were talking about it here. And after I came here, then I wasn't such a big fan of the organization, but I still love New Hampshire, and I'm surrounded by wonderful people.
And he had moved back here after the whole Free State Project controversy with Cantwell, which we will not rehash. But nonetheless, he's now here, and you could be here too. Lots of people who love the ideas of freedom are moving to New Hampshire because this is where liberty activists are gathering, and this is where liberty activists are having an impact. Where we're making national and international headlines doing a variety of things. So there's a really exciting movement to be part of here. In fact, Chris, you and I were out doing some cop block stuff last weekend, and I suspect we might rehash that this coming weekend here and do some more outreach to some of the local college students. There's always stuff happening in not just in Keene, but all across New Hampshire. I understand there's more. There's another DUI checkpoint coming up in Manchester. So there's lots of kind of in the streets things that you can do, and then there's the political system here as well is amazing. I'm actually I've thrown my hat in for governor. I was interviewed by the local newspaper briefly on the phone for that purpose this week. I have no chance of winning, but nonetheless, I get media interviews out of it, and that means I can talk about the ideas of New Hampshire declaring independence and seceding from the United States and ending the insane war on drugs or whatever other issues I really want to discuss and want people to see talked about. So there's huge levels of political potential here. It only cost me $100 to throw in for the governor's race. I don't know what it costs.
That just cracks me up so
in your state. I don't know what the requirements are where you live, but
to run for governor in New York is like the craziest production. So $100 is just so funny.
I've definitely made it back in media. I mean, I haven't even gotten a lot of media coverage yet, but I've gotten a couple interviews out of it, and I spoke in front of the Republican debate because the governor, the real governor, the current one, the incumbent, Maggie Hassan's her name, she did not accept the invitation to the debate that was given out by Franklin Pierce School.
Why would she?
Well, I don't know why she would. She didn't.
She was to debate a homeless man who's drunk on the street. I mean,
it helped me because I got to actually appear in front of the Republican debate and speak for up to 10 minutes. So I just got to talk about whatever I wanted to an audience, and whoever watched it at home and on the internet, and whoever watched it on YouTube. So again,
for $100,
lots of great exposure for $100. So again, what do you get in your state? Well, a lot of people are frustrated with their lack of freedom where they live, and they don't really know what the best thing to do is. I mean, it's obviously convenient to stay where you are. You probably have a job. You may have a career. You may have a family, and there's, a house, a business that you own, whatever. There are things keeping you or appearing to keep you where you are. But there are all these projects out there that are beckoning. If you love freedom.
Move here.
Right, the Move Here projects. In fact, there's a Facebook page that catalogs as many of the Move Here projects as Mark can find, called the Move Here Project. And so they seem to be iterations to some extent of the idea of the Free State Project, which in itself was not an original concept. There were ideas prior to the Free State Project of, hey, we're all freedom people. Let's go here. Let's go to this island. Well, it turned out some guy came on a gunboat and, the king of Tonga or something sent a gunboat out.
I think this was the Minerva Project, and it happened in the 70s, and it was a fascinating idea. They didn't actually go to an island. They went to, a reef that was below the water. And then they were using pumping boats to pump seawater. Now, this is outside of the realm of any country. No country claims this, and they're taking sand and they're pumping it onto this reef, and they're going to make an island. And on this island, they're then going to build the libertarian paradise.
I didn't even know that detail about that. That's interesting.
Then 4 nations, I know Australia and Tonga, it might have been Indonesia and New Guinea, I'm not 100% sure, sort of got together and what are we going to do about this new nation that is being built on our borders? And it was decided that, hey, Tonga, you're closest or whatever, take out a gunboat and go scare them away. And they did. They basically went out there with and when you're just talking about some construction workers, it doesn't matter whether you've got, a cruiser, a battleship, or some tiny little PT boat with a mounted 50 cal. You're gonna be just as dead. You're as dead as the people that got an A-bomb dropped on them.
So that didn't work out. And so, again, the Free State Project, not an original idea, but it's the one that stuck because of the internet. Its genesis was in 2001. Since then, people have been signing up. There are over 15,000 who've signed up. So there's a lot of success with the Free State Project, and a lot of people have moved. Over 1,600 are here now in New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, and again, thousands more are coming. So it's natural that people would see that and say they want to imitate it. But they'd rather have it happen in their state. So there's been a lot of like free Detroit, free Montana, or not Montana.
Montana's one.
Wyoming. There's there a Montana one?
Yeah,
There was one. Thank you, Mark. You're the expert on these things. The free Wyoming thing, the Free State Wyoming, etc. So just some
Free State Wyoming had I felt like a more legitimate claim.
Wyoming was the second most popular state in the vote of the Free State Project.
It's a spin-off of the Free State Project, and people really wanted Wyoming. A lot of people really dig the Western
thing. Yeah.
And, Wyoming has half the population of New Hampshire, and there's some benefits to Wyoming. But I think that the benefits to New Hampshire...
It has less than half.
Slightly less than half, but not much less than half. But there's some benefits to Wyoming, and the population is chief among them.
Chris Cantwell, why are you in New Hampshire instead of Wyoming? Did you look at it?
Some people had tried to encourage me to go to Wyoming when I first left New Hampshire. And especially when all the news broke about me getting expelled from the FSP, a bunch of people tried to get me to go out there. But, I did not see... Look, I'm all for getting up and starting something. That's great. That's wonderful. But I don't want to. Why reinvent the wheel? It just seemed to me like there was more going on here.
Right. What happens there?
I like one of the things I heard about Wyoming is that they have like constitutional carry. That like it's just there's no there's no permit. That there's no conceal, open, whatever you want to do. There's just like no laws regarding weapons there. And I do have to have a permit to conceal here in New Hampshire. And that I
for
don't
now
like
that could change. That could change in the future.
It could.
With enough activists here, that is definitely something that could easily change.
I mean, they've repealed, a number of laws. Like, one of the things that cracks me up is just go through the New Hampshire Revised Statutes Annotated, the RSA here, is like you go and you click on something, and it's like this entire section of law, and it just says repealed.
It's so funny. That reminds me of a story today. We went out to breakfast. Some of the local activists went out to breakfast, and there's a guy who lives in Alstead, which is a town kind of north of here, doesn't matter. Anyway, they were having one of their select board or selectmen meetings where it's like 3 people or 3 people on the board. I don't know how many people were attending the meeting, but they were talking about some sort of parking on grass near a church, some city land or town land. And there was a concern from one of the selectmen that, this is bad for the grass and we need to put some signs up. And the other 2 selectmen said, whoa, we don't want to over-regulate. And so, basically it didn't pass. The proposal to just put a no parking sign up didn't pass. And at the same time, that was hours after I'd seen a picture, which people swear is real, from California, with like 7 signs just stacked one on top of another on a big pole about where you can park and where you can't. It was crazy. More coming up on Free Talk Live. We're talking about, or we're going to be discussing, the Gulch, Chile project, but we're just prefacing it with a larger discussion about the Free State Project and the other competing projects, the ones that are trying to sort of ape what the Free State Project is doing, because whenever you've got a successful entrant in the marketplace, it's inevitable that other people are going to come up with competition. And in the case of a lot of them, it's not much competition at all. Apparently, the Free Detroit Project has fizzled, from what I understand. There's somebody who apparently Michael Dean was talking to from the Freedom Fiends who confirmed that no one is moving for Free Detroit. So a lot of these things just fizzle before they even get started. They're nothing more than a Facebook group or whatever. But some actually have people investing money and planning moves and actually moving. And in the case of Galt's Gulch, there was apparently some money on the line, and maybe there's a scam going on. We'll give you some more information about that coming up. So there are a number of these alternatives to the Free State Project out there, and some of them are, more unique than others. Some of them are more successful than others.
A lot of people have told me I should move to Somalia.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that one too. But you were talking, actually, Chris, about the idea of the Free State Wyoming, which is probably one of the more long-running competitors to the Free State Project. Like, they still have a website that exists. It doesn't appear to have been updated last time I went to it in any recent period of time. But it's there, and there are people there as well. I like the move, at least the Move Here projects, and I'm fine with the idea of there being more than one of them. Obviously, that's just the way things are going to be. I think that people should be encouraged to move to New Hampshire, which is by far and away the most successful of them.
And I don't think that your statement is subjective. I think it is objectively the most successful. But admittedly, I often do feel this kind of competition feeling.
It's competition. Absolutely. There are only so many libertarians out there, and only so many of them are willing to move somewhere.
Right. Far fewer are willing to move. And for me, I kind of feel like it's important when we move. I don't know what you paid, Ian, but basically to move, this was the bottom of the recession as far as the housing.
If you include me taking a bite on the house that I sold, $70,000.
Right. I mean, there was the bottom of the housing market. I had to sell some cars. Whenever you buy or sell a house or a car, you're taking a hit. And there's no doubt about it. Some furniture had to be, let go, and tools and things like that. It's just stuff that I didn't want to pick up and put in the moving truck. Didn't make sense to me. So it costs money for people to move.
Sure.
And I find
some people can just throw all their stuff in a car and move for the cost of gas.
I find it, I get indignant when somebody says, hey, you know what you ought to do? You ought to move over here. And then we'll get together and we'll get some folks and it's be, whoa, we're going to get us some liberty.
Wasn't there like a Free Tampa project or something?
Yeah,
like
the
that?
Free Tampa project was essentially, let's get a bunch of people to run for office in Tampa and this will really work. And I find it to be the most cavalier thing to suggest.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you just sell a bunch of your crap, lose tens of thousands of dollars, and get on over here, and I won't do nothing.
We can move. Everyone can move to Tampa and vote for the Libertarian candidate.
Was the Tampa thing though? Was that encouraging people to move to Tampa?
Yes,
or this
they
is
were
just,
encouraging people to move to a district in Pinellas County, I think.
In Long Island, Gigi Bowman's doing Save Long Island, and it's not a Move Here project, but it's trying to get people to, repair New York, which
even
is
more
just ridiculous. But she's not like, hey, move to New York because this is where we're going to get freedom.
Gentlemen, hold the thoughts. We can continue in a moment. I want to make sure you get the chance to get on here. A bunch of people were going to move down to Chile. This is the story we touched on in the very beginning of the show tonight. We never really got into it. The fate of Gulch, Chile. We will share from the Dollar Vigilante blog at dollarvigilante.com, which is one of the groups that was pushing Gulch, Chile. So clearly, things have changed a little bit down there. We'll find out what allegedly happened here in moments. The toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. If you were involved in Gulch, Chile, and you want to give us the inside scoop beyond what we're about to share, please do. Let's continue here. From the Dollar Vigilante blog, this is Wendy McElroy. She's a fairly well-known within the Liberty movement author. Jeff Berwick is one of the main guys over at Dollar Vigilante. He's been to the Porcupine Freedom Festival also. He has a fairly popular blog, and so Gulch was one of these sort of competitors sort of to the Free State Project, but it could really only attract a certain kind of person, the kind of person who had money to spend, because your average person can't just throw all their stuff in the car and drive down to Chile. You could.
I don't think anybody could throw their stuff in the car and drive down to Chile.
Yeah, so there's going to be some money involved in making a move around the world. It costs money to move anywhere, but it costs more to move internationally, especially to buy property internationally. Anyway, many have wondered about the status of Gulch, Chile, the libertarian community that was planned and sold in lots on as a liberty oasis for those who wish to live freedom before they died. My husband and I purchased an option on 1.25 acres in July of 2013. Others bought 10 or 25-acre lots, and some invested in the agricultural side of the venture. Extremely savvy investors committed small fortunes. Gulch, Chile has been an unexpectedly wild ride since then. Shortly after purchasing, I received an unsigned email through the web form of a site I maintained. It informed me that Gulch, Chile was a fraud. One reason, they say that it lacked water rights. In Chile, purchasing surface land and water rights are two separate processes. Gulch, Chile
crazy.
is desert terrain, rather like California, and water rights are absolutely necessary for a community to be established. I responded to the email, but the message bounced back to me. She said, I did a search for the IP address, and it became apparent that the sender had used an anonymizer. I forwarded the email to the two joint owners of Galt, Chile, Jeff Berwick and Ken Johnson. Jeff was and still is a trusted friend. I did not know Ken, however. My inquiry was not hostile, but it stirred quite a reaction from Ken. They immediately recognized the source as a former employee who had threatened to tell people, like me, about the problem if they didn't pay him hush money. She says, a fast forward through many unpleasant details. The man was paid off. Gulch, Chile acquired more land, which had water rights that were both attached and transferable. The Gulch, Chile celebration was held in November 2013. The alleged purpose was for people to finalize the selection of lots and other paperwork. No selection took place because no zoning permits had been obtained. A Gulch, Chile, which seems kind of funny for Gulch to obtain zoning permits. Isn't Gulch the idea of getting away from the government or something like that? Well, I've never read Atlas Shrugged.
We have zoning laws here too.
What does that mean? You mean in Chile?
I mean, in New Hampshire, in lots of parts of New Hampshire. I mean,
sure. I'm not claiming this is Gulch,
I can't
right?
drill for oil in Keene.
Isn't Gulch supposed to be like some sort of liberty place, though?
I mean, it's a nickname that they assign to their project. It's
right.
it's not the mythical place where John Galt moves his hand on a rock and says a name and the lights and blah, blah, blah.
This is as petty and superficial critique of Gulch as Free State Project. You can't have a free state. I'm never going to move for the Free State Project.
But totally legitimate critique.
It is not a totally legitimate critique.
Yes, it is. It's an oxymoron, the term
the
Free
Round
State.
Square Project.
Yes, it's a name, people.
Yeah. So going on
You know
here.
what? You know what makes libertarians so gosh darn fun? Their pedantry, with the way they stick on words and they just won't shut up about it.
Anyway,
it's just an
the zoning
idea.
permits hadn't been obtained, so they couldn't select their lots. Another celebration was held this April with my husband and I in attendance. She says she was the opening speaker and has made no money from the project other than her speaking fee. The alleged purpose was for people to finalize the selection of lots and other paperwork. No selection took place, however, because no zoning permits had been obtained. Unbeknownst to most purchasers, dramatic changes had occurred behind the scenes. Through maze-like transfers of cash and authority, Jeff Berwick was shoved out of the project, and Ken Johnson remained in control. She says, I've sorted out most of the obfuscating tangle, and I may soon be writing a history of the labyrinthine matter. For the moment, suffice it to say, there is a basis for various lawsuits, and some are being pursued. There will be no zoning for the 1.25-acre lots or other arrangements of less than 10 acres. Gulch, Chile is an environmentally protected area, and it would take the political movement of heaven and earth to allow a community based on small lots to be officially approved. I had the opportunity to ask a question of the salesman who showed my husband and me our property. She puts that in quotes. I claimed it because I fell head over heels for the most beautiful tree I'd ever seen. I felt an instant connection, as though the two of us were old souls who'd found each other. I could believe it. I could see it. Waking up each morning and having coffee under that tree and
I love this tree part.
Telling it about my plans for the day.
Hell out of me.
Months later, in a Skype conference, I asked the then Gulch alienated salesman, when you sold us the property, and she's putting sold in quotes, when you printed out a photo from your phone that read Wendy's tree, did you know you could not legally sell us the lot you were offering? He said, that is correct. I suppose there's some comfort in being fleeced in good company. In being in the company of some of the smartest businessmen in the movement, I'm not reassured. Perhaps it's because I'm an Irish peasant, and what reassures me is owning the land under my feet. So she goes on, she says that something reassuring has been happening. The founding fathers have been trying to purchase all the rights to Gulch, Chile and to reboot, and who knows what's going to become of that. What's not revealed in this story is how much they spent on this and whether they'll have any chance at seeing any of it come back to them in the future.
The thing that I'm hearing here is that, like, she got a picture of a tree and gave somebody a bunch of money. This sounds to me like somebody didn't do their due diligence.
It does sound like caveat emptor, right?
But there's a lot of people who are involved, and let's not forget, they're still there on site at Gulch, Chile. They've got about 12 people there. As I've been talking to the guy who's putting up Fort Gulch, which is the hotel that's supposed to be on site. It's a different project entirely, and
I didn't
may
realize
change
this
its
was
name.
on desert land.
Well, California is a desert. What do you mean by desert?
Oh, it's just how she's
got a big old tree there. Yeah.
I've gone to the website. I've seen the pictures of the rolling hills. I wouldn't call it lush, but I wouldn't call it a desert either.
So what you're saying is, Mark, this is still going.
What
happened with her lot, though?
I don't know what happened with her lot. Right. I think that they're still trying to get one thing's for clear. They're still trying to get zoning. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't imagine anybody knows what's going to happen. But I think that what she's trying to do is advise people that
look out.
What's that?
Look out.
Yeah. Well, they are clear that they don't yet have zoning for this stuff. I mean, I've read the website and they're clear. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't think any of us know what's going to happen. You're dealing with governments, and that's one of the things about.
Apparently, you may be dealing with scam artists as well.
Well,
if her claims are true.
Hold on a second. Now, if they're saying on the website that they don't have the zoning, and Wendy's complaint is that they don't have the zoning, then this goes back to doing your due diligence before you go and you buy a plot of land where you are being informed that they don't have the zoning. Then you can't turn around and accuse somebody of scamming you when you find out that they don't have the zoning.
You're right about that. We don't know what she was told,
This is not a secret.
We don't know if that was on the page of the website when she bought. We don't know what they were, what information they were given.
One thing you knew is that you were getting into a new project, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't buying in at Celebrationville in Disney World. This is a bunch of white people moving to Chile in order to create a freedom enclave. There's going to be
How
some
do you know
things.
They're all white people?
They're marketing in the United States and Canada. I'm not saying they're all white people. I said a bunch.
They're American libertarians.
You know what? I'd like to check. Let's just go. Well, maybe we can find out what the ethnic varieties of them are.
I don't really care personally.
Apparently, you do. You asked the question.
In the meantime, it made it sound like it was some sort of separatist thing, and I don't think that's the intention at all. See you tomorrow. Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.